The information presented is for informational purposes only. The opinions expressed are not necessarily the opinions of any Daikin company. This information should not be confused for accounting, legal, medical, or other professional advice. Please seek advice from a qualified professional for any specific questions.
Welcome to the Accelerated HVAC Success Program. My name is Ben Middleton. I'm the National Sales Training Manager for the Daikin, Goodman, and Amana brands. Today, I'm joined here with Jonathan Moscatello. Jonathan, you're the Utility Relations Manager of the Environmental Promotions Office here at Daikin Comfort Technology. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, no, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm excited to talk about all the great stuff happening with utility rebates and other incentives.
Well, before we get into that, why don't you tell us how you got into the role that you're in today?
Yeah, it's been a long road, but it started like so many people around us. I worked in contracting. My wife and I own a contracting business, and that led to her and I deciding to diversify what we do, meaning we like each other too much to work together. And so I went out and started doing work for utilities and for our distribution network, educating contractors on how to use rebates to grow their business and be a good partner to the utility programs that, provide incentives for us. And then a few years ago, I reached out to some good friends here at Daikin and said, I want to be a part of a team. And they said, it just so happens we're building a team internally to engage with programs better. And, here we are today.
For a lot of people that don't understand maybe the utility space, why don't we start with a little bit, it might be confusing. You think of a utility, they sell power. Mm-hmm. You would think they want to sell as much power as they possibly could to every consumer. Why in the world do utility companies even put rebates and incentives out there for people to upgrade?
Yeah, it's a confusing situation. Basically, the story goes like this. It is so much cheaper for a utility company to go out and get power that someone doesn't use because they've saved energy than it is to build another power plant, more transmission lines, and all the associated distribution network. Most states regulate their public utilities. They're a controlled monopoly. Mm-hmm. And the states actually recognize this too, and they don't let utilities often build another power plant, more transmission lines, and so forth. They say, no, you have to go find basically wasted power and put that back to public use. And I mean, just to put a fine point on it, there are utilities that I know that have not built new infrastructure in over 20 years, but at the same time have, added 50% population in their area. That's how much savings there is out there. And so energy efficiency is a very real business. And it's a potential gold mine for HVAC contractors and distributors as well.
So to understand kind of the landscape, and maybe I miss a couple, but you've got the utilities that have incentive programs. States can have incentive programs for efficiency. And then there are even federal programs that are available. And am I missing any of the other entities that may be out there?
I think that captures the run of it. They're usually a little different flavor. Mm-hmm. So like sometimes like Wisconsin, for instance, and this Oregon where I live, both have statewide utility programs. Mm-hmm. So the states run these efficiency rebate programs, but all the money comes through the utility. But then there are other states, for example, that have decided they want to invest in energy in their states. And so they fund rebate programs separate from the power supply and distribution. It can be very confusing, but the reality is for contractors, it's just ice cream and candy for their homeowners and their incentives that you can leverage. And where the money comes from is less important about knowing about it and then using it at the kitchen table.
That was real interesting. I remember back, this is a little while ago now, but they had that whole entire program where you could get up to $1,500 back as far as a tax credit for a 95% efficient furnace.
Yeah. Well, it's even better now, right? Let's say around a year ago, the Congress passed a law. It was signed by the president, reauthorizing that tax credit. It's called the 25C tax credit. And they changed the rules to make them so much more favorable to homeowners investing long-term in energy efficient technologies. And so, I mean, the dollars are significant. And unlike the past, there was like a one-time $1,500. Now it can be as high as $2,500 or so. And it can be every year. Now, there's more details than I'm covering here. But again, the takeaway is there's significant tools for contractors to use. And this one's a tax credit, different from utility rebates, but an incentive all the same.
So let's talk a little bit about that. So tax credits, you have to have a tax liability in order to be able to get a credit back. Rebates, though, are actually, that's cash.
It is. It's cash. You know, sometimes a rebate can be right immediate at the kitchen table. Other times the utility, let's say, or whoever is giving the rebate sends a check. It can be 6 to 8 weeks later. So some of the details, I think, do confuse contractors, and maybe they feel a little afraid to be involved in the incentive program because there's lots of different details. I would encourage a contractor to sit and work maybe with their distributor or someone they trust in this space, because there aren't that many different varieties or flavors of tax credits. And there's not that many varieties or flavors, just a couple of rebates. And so pretty quickly you could become expert in the little like details that you need to know to represent. But yeah, it's you know, there are great examples of contractors radically changing their business by engaging in these incentive programs.
So it was interesting to me. I think a lot of contractors really jumped on the $1,500 tax credit when that came out, going back, you know, that's probably over 10 years ago.
It is, yeah.
But why are contractors hesitant today to really get out there and promote? I mean, because we're talking about thousands of dollars.
Yeah, it's
not
thousands.
15. It's thousands of dollars. Why?
Yeah.
What is the hesitation that contractors have today when it comes to the utility programs, the state programs, and the federal programs, and talking, promoting? You just don't see those advertisements going out like they did in the past.
Yeah, I have a theory on that.
Okay.
I think we heard this announcement of this law that was passed last year, and the details were not within the law. And so while we were hearing all about these new tax credits, and I think many of us were excited to get going on it, we couldn't get going on it. There was a lack of finality or information. And so that early confusion, I think, caused people to pump the brakes. I think it caused consumers to pump the brakes as well. And it wasn't until kind of well into the first couple months of the year that either the Internal Revenue Service, the IRS, made the rules clear, and then also the manufacturers begin to publish lists of qualifying equipment. So if you're a contractor, let's say, that hesitated as you suggested or experienced, you don't need to hesitate anymore. We are in go time now. So for us at either Goodman, Amana, or Daikin branded products, we have a letter that states the furnace models, the heat pump models, the AC models, etc., that all qualify for the 25C tax credit. And then similarly, homeowners and their tax advisor, whoever does their taxes, has information on, you know, what they need to do to claim the tax credit, basically. So all the information is live now. We should put our fears behind us and go.
So that's kind of the 25C portion of the Inflation Reduction Act. And there's two more components that are still waiting on finality.
Yeah. And there was big news just this week. The states finally were given guidance on how to apply for the rebates. So this law that I was talking about that got passed back at the end of last year had a federal tax credit component, and then it had 2 homeowner rebates that the federal government was giving money to each state if they wanted to use it. Again, it was totally confusing because the states couldn't apply for that information, for this rebate money until even this week. The application process wasn't even spelled out. So, okay, here we are. Now the states can apply. When can we get the money, right?
Right.
Probably not till the first of the year. Some people think, well, maybe states will apply, receive money, and be going sooner. I think that's possible, but my gosh, we're in August. I don't think states will apply, get a letter of authorization, and then put all of the steps and the programs and all that in place to do money before the first of the year. That's my opinion. So I think contractors should learn, be patient, but it's not going to be until the start of the year, I think, that we're in go time for those 2 rebate programs either.
Now, they're using a couple of different criterias in that Federal Inflation Reduction Act. So for the 25C, what is the criteria that they're using
Yeah,
there?
it was different. So the CEE, or the Consortium for Energy Efficiency, has a product specification. And so air conditioners are listed in there, heat pumps, ducted and ductless, and so forth. It's a fairly high bar. Now, the Inflation Reduction Act, we just found out this week that both of the rebates that are stipulated in that require Energy Star certification of the product in order to be used. And this is going to present a particular challenge on the one hand for manufacturers. However, it's going to be very clear and easy for homeowners and the contractors too. Like, you can go on the Energy Star website and find the list of your certified products. And so I think it's going to be a little bit of a mad dash for manufacturers to get all their products certified and up on the list, but we'll get there.
But there's 2 components even to that rebate, right? So one component of that rebate is qualifying equipment that has the Energy Star rating on it, and then so it's just by the equipment only. And as long as you put in the qualifying equipment, there are tiers, and so it's done by income level.
Right.
And so you have your high income that's probably not going to qualify for any rebate, but then you have a mid income and you have a low income, and that is actually a tiered rebate depending on which bucket you fall in.
Yeah, this is where it'll be very interesting. Every state's going to be, I think, a little bit different on how they go to market. However, if you're a low-income homeowner, and that each state will develop their qualification for low income, you can get 100% of one of these Energy Star certified products covered up to a certain amount. If you're moderate income, and again, each state will develop that criteria for that, you can get 50% up to a certain amount. And so it is tiering, but it's very different. We've never worked within that kind of a tiering system before. And that's for what they call the HERA, the High Efficiency Homes Act. For all of it, intents and purposes. There's this other rebate called HOMES, is the acronym. And this is to be determined. It's we think there's going to be some modeling software that'll allow a home to be evaluated as is.
Right.
And then with these improvements that we'd like to install for them, and then we model it again afterwards. And the estimated savings becomes part of a rebate calculation. Very vague. So to be determined on how this is all going to work. But nevertheless, the amounts of monies should be significant for most homeowners to move away from minimum efficiency type equipment, the basic stuff out there, and move into something that has more comfort features, higher energy efficiency, lower operating costs. And it should be able to support that move with very little out-of-pocket expense for the homeowner. I think this is a win for everybody involved.
Yeah. And so let's switch gears. That's the Inflation Reduction Act. Let's talk more about, how does a contractor learn more about their local utility and state rebates? Where do they go? What resources are available?
Well, how I do this myself and have done it over the years is I simply go to the website for any utility that I might sell into their service area. On every utility I've ever searched, there's energy efficiency rebates or some area like that. And you can very quickly get to heating and cooling if they offer those rebates.
Mm-hmm.
And from that, you can see very quickly what the rebates are. For me, that's the easiest way to get it. It gets right to the source that matters. Another way is I would encourage any of our distribution partners out there and the local salespeople to make these local rebates a part of the sales work that you do so that a contractor can consult with their local distributor on what's going on with rebates in my market. That's another tip. Finally, one of the great things is most larger utilities have what they call a trade ally program.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a network of contractors that are available to homeowners to handle this rebate. I would get involved in this trade ally network. It's a great way to stay informed. And most of these bigger utilities have someone dedicated to being an information resource for the contractor. They call them a trade ally coordinator. So if you're friends with your trade ally coordinator, you know them, you can call them up and ask them questions. You can call up and say, hey, I've got a homeowner that I think is a good qualifier for this, but I'm not sure. And they will give you the kind of green light and they keep track of it. So I think an essential relationship actually is to know the trade ally coordinator or the person responsible for these rebates at your local utilities and consult with them.
Yeah, what I found when I was out in the field as a territory sales manager too, those trade ally partners are always looking for opportunities to talk with groups of contractors. And so whether it be doing ride-alongs and going and visit with contractors one-on-one, whether it be holding a special event and having them come in and speak to a group of contractors, they're always looking for that audience. They want to help contractors utilize that money because they have a ton of money that they're responsible for giving away.
Most utilities are what they call under allocated, meaning they have more money to invest in high efficiency, full feature products than what is used in the market. And so here's a little secret that we've learned over the years in the business and my wife runs is that when you're seen as a local contractor who can deliver, help the utility person hit their numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So hit their numbers and make happy customers and make your paperwork or all of your submissions accurate. Those three things, you'll find that they refer customers to you. They're not technically allowed to do it, but let's face it, they got to hit their numbers too.
Right.
And so they're going to go to their star players. And it's a winner, absolute winner when you work it that way.
So that's great that you bring that up. So how does a contractor really become better organized so that they can deliver on those three things that you talked about?
Great question. And I think when I talk to contractors now in this role, one of the things I hear again and again is that they don't know how to organize internally to actually fill the paperwork out, to communicate accurately to the customer. And so there's a few things that I would do to be, excellent at delivering on these rebates. The first one is to make sure that my sales paperwork has one clause on the terms and conditions, which is this, something to the effect of, we advocate for your utility rebates. We are not the ultimately responsible party. The utility rebate is between you and the utility that serves you. And that way, if you do get something wrong, you're not on the hook for writing this rebate check. And if you explain that to homeowners, they get it. They're comfortable. The second thing to do is to work into your internal processes. Like you get a permit for every job. You order equipment for every job. You have to fill out whatever paperwork the utility requires from you, similarly in your job process. And so for small companies, that's hard. I get it, to have another very intense step. What we did when we were a small company, and sometimes we still do it, is our salespeople actually sit down with the homeowner and make a show out of filling the rebate paperwork out with them. And we find that that's part of cementing that sales relationship, getting referral business, etc. So there's a couple ways you can work that, but it's a really critical part of delivering.
How did you find that kind of differentiated you from your competitors in the same market that you were in, making it part of the show, if you will?
I'm going to answer that kind of around the back way. So most of the competitors in my market didn't understand the utility relationship. And so they used the utility. They were like free money and they hustled that rebate. We trained our staff to think of it differently. We trained our staff to think of, well, you're selling to 2 customers here at this house, the homeowner who's getting this product, but somebody else is kicking in like $1,000 here, this utility. They're your customer too. So you want to accurately represent the thing you're doing here, which is selling a high efficiency product. You want to make sure you're not misstating or misrepresenting what the homeowner's responsibility is here, what our responsibility is, why this is happening. And I'll give you an example. I live in the north, right? It's a heating market. So we install heat pumps to save heating energy. Well, most of our customers buy these things during the summer when it's hot. And so we make sure we remind them that, yeah, you're getting air conditioning today when we install your heat pump, but come heating season, make sure you use this heat pump for heating. That's what the utilities are kicking in this $1,000 to do. And then we send like email blasts when the season turns and they start heating to remember to use your heat pump for heating. So the utilities recognized when we started doing these little things, and they loved us for it because they found our competitors, they weren't getting any of that savings that they were buying from our competitors' installations.
So what kind of sales process, you talk about that, works best with those utility rebates?
Yeah, this is where the rubber hits the road.
Right.
This is the special sauce. So there's a mistaken belief by a lot of our contractors that a utility rebate makes the phone ring and that it creates leads. And I'm here to tell you it absolutely does not do that. The same rules apply. Nobody buys heating and cooling unless their stuff is broken or they're miserably uncomfortable and they don't have air conditioning in some places. So what we do is we position the rebate as a whole part of our sales process. We sell solutions. We understand the customer's hurts, needs, wants. We position high efficiency products as the solution to those hurts, needs, and wants. And when it comes time to closing, we position the utility rebate as a validator of those solutions as high efficiency and energy savings. And we basically sell the product on its own merits, and we use the rebate to validate those claims in the language we use, but it's also how we time our introduction of the rebate at the end of let's sort of more towards the presentation and the closing process. It's subtle. It's not like this magic trick. It's just good solution sales. What I do find is that our competitors have conversations way up front with the homeowner about the rebate when it's not, they're not convinced they're buying high efficiency at that time. And so the power of the rebate is lost in terms of when it's communicated, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think it is a completely different way because everybody's always looking for that magic silver bullet, the elusive silver bullet that doesn't really exist.
Right. Yeah, I know. And it's so little, it's like very not exciting or sexy to say, oh, and by the way, this comes with $1,000 rebate from the utility. I fill out all the paperwork with you and we can get this in next week if that works for you. I mean, it's like kind of, that's all it really takes.
Right.
So.
What do you think the market outlook is for utility rebates and incentives?
It's off the charts to the point where without sounding dramatic, I really need to encourage all of our dealers to make incentives, a big part of what they do in terms of sales, there's everything to be gained. And here's what I've learned over the year, why I'm saying that they're so important. We found in our work in our own company that when you had one rebate of any type, it was effective at sales, provided I found $300 to be the magic number. When you have multiple rebates, it's like this exponentially powerful sales tool. And so with that in mind, we have an enormous number of rebates and incentives available now. So in the state where my wife runs this business, we have a local energy efficiency rebate from the utility. That's great. We have a state energy rebate that's aimed at electrification and decarbonization. That's available. We have a 25C federal tax credit. These are 3 incentives all stacked up on once to the tune of, we think, $2,000 roughly, or at least, on a product that was typically sell for, like, let's say $7,000 is our average ticket price, right? So for us, what are we doing, right? Like, what would I counsel anyone to do? So I would start marketing in new and different ways to generate leads, and try to capture people who are interested in home improvement. Not our classic heating and cooling customer who's got a furnace that breaks, but there are customers out there more and more today who are looking for some new, better, or different technologies for their home. And so that's the kind of trick I would say. Tap into that home improvement buyer, somebody looking for new technology. Position our wonderful high-tech Daikin, Goodman, and Amana products, because we have some amazing new technologies. And then when it comes time to, like, close, you validate a lot of these solutions with saying the federal tax credit supports this, that you've energy efficiency rebate from the utility, and then possibly other incentives you might have in your marketplace. And it's this triple dip or double dip effect that's so powerful at the kitchen table, especially for a home improvement buyer.
Jonathan, thank you so much for coming and joining us today. Do you have any last words or thoughts for our viewers that you want to share with the group?
I just want to encourage them to be so excited about the time that we're in the 20 plus years in the HVAC industry that we've been doing this. We're in the best of times right now. It's a little weird right now because we're in transition, but in the months ahead, we're going to be launching into what should be the best business environment we'll experience. So go
Jonathan,
get them.
Thank you so much.
Good to see you, Ben.